boyfriend's nosy sister kept threatening to uncover my dark secrets, so we hid a real skeleton for her to find. Her reaction was priceless. My boyfriend Dean, 38, and I, 32, were navigating the thorny path of his family's disapproval, primarily his sister, Ren, 56, and his stepmother, Penny, 69. Ren, intensely religious and protective of Dean, found my liberal, bisexual, atheist, feminist identity and two moms utterly objectionable. For 3 years, her disdain grew from snarky remarks to outright attacks, especially after Dean moved in with me unmarried. One of Ren's recurring taunts was that I looked scary, but was mild and boring, constantly claiming she'd uncover skeletons in my closet. I'm usually good-natured and can laugh at myself, so I typically shrugged it off. My birthday recently rolled around and we had everyone over. Dean, while getting decorations, returned with a plastic skeleton. With a mischievous grin, he held it up and asked, "You thinking what I'm thinking?" My internal response was a resounding, "Yes." I laughed, telling him, "You son of a Sith, I'm in." So, we set our trap. True to form, Ren began her usual tirade, loudly pointing out our unmarried status, shared bed, and my cannabis use. I ignored her as she moved on to criticizing my edgy cosplay and lack of authenticity, insisting she'd find my skeletons. Dean started to chuckle, and I, with a dramatic flair, said, "Oh, you didn't notice." I led her to the coat closet by the front door and opened it. There, propped in the corner, was Skeletor, our plastic skeleton. We all had a good laugh, and Dean even quipped, "Finally found it!" But when I turned to Ren, her good-natured laugh vanished, replaced by a look of pure horror. Her face turned crimson, she went silent, and tears streamed down her cheeks. She slapped me, then left without a word. Stunned, I was unprepared for Penny's immediate condemnation. Penny accused me of mocking the woman who raised Dean and called me a disrespectful ass. The party died a swift, awkward death, with guests departing within the hour. Dean, ever supportive, tried to lift my spirits, taking me to see a movie, and getting takeout so we could binge-watch our favorite show. However, Ren's texts soon arrived, a long message about how she'd tried with me. But I was determined to be a morally corrupt violation of her family, expressing her devastation that I hated her enough to make a mockery. I replied with a sincere apology for hurting her, explaining I genuinely thought it was a shared joke, and offered to talk it over at lunch. Her response was chilling. She was disinterested in dealing with me further, and would celebrate when Dean wised up and leaves me. Meanwhile, group chats buzzed with others tearing me apart, labeling me vicious and malicious. My mind reeled. While Ren did help raise Dean, he's a grown man living his own life, not her baby. Dean needed to address this with his family, admitting the skeleton idea was mutual, and making it clear that slapping me was unacceptable. He also had to shut down Ren's constant negativity and the family's collective attacks. It was clear Ren could dish it out, but couldn't take it. Our petty joke, born from 3 years of enduring her behavior, felt entirely justified. Furthermore, her audacity to insult me in my own home as a guest was simply rude. Her judgment stemmed from my refusal to conform to her principles, not from any genuine trying. I had taken the high road with my apology and offered to talk, which she rejected. Escalation in Dean's stand Facebook became Ren's next battleground. She posted a lengthy public rant, tagging me, claiming I was a hateful woman who disrespected parental figures, implying it was because I was an orphan. She even suggested I was on drugs and had lured her baby under them too, turning him against God and his family. Dean, more active on Facebook than I, saw it and exploded, demanding she take it down. The damage, however, was done. Relatives emerged from the woodwork, sending me links to rehab centers, church counseling, and even sex addiction help. My personal favorite was the before me and after me photo comparison. Dean in church with his family versus him at a concert, tattooed, drinking, and clearly intoxicated. Some even staged an intervention at our home. Dean finally lost his composure when I was called a classless hussy and shameless slut, yelling at them to leave. To be clear, Dean and I do use THC and cannabis, which is legal where we live, and we both have jobs and lead productive lives. The after me photo was actually from before we even dated. And no, I'm not an orphan. Ironically, Ren's husband, a recent alcoholic, had just wrecked their car while drunk and was arrested for belligerence. So, being called a shameless slut felt almost like a compliment. I talked with Dean about limiting contact with his family. He became visibly upset, loving his family despite the chaos, especially Ren. He grew stressed, on the verge of a panic attack. I helped him calm down, got him water, and held him until he regained his composure. He asked for some time for things to die down before he tried to talk sense into Ren. I wasn't angry with him. I knew this was incredibly difficult for him. But the constant bombardment of texts and emails, calling me a demon woman who hates Christians, was overwhelming and untrue. Breaking point and moving on. I was emotionally exhausted, but things escalated further. Ren became depressed and self-harmed after we cut her off, and Dean was clearly suffering. Dean, my calm and logical partner, sat me down a few days later. His unusual calmness was my first warning. When he directly asked how I was affected, I finally broke down. It wasn't a nightmare. It was hell. We live in a small, big city. Big enough, but with circles where everyone knows everyone. Our state is generally religious, so Ren's social media attacks became the local gossip. Some people sided with her, enough for me to get dirty looks and rude treatment. My hairstylist, their cousin, even said she couldn't work on my hair until the situation was resolved, citing family pressure from Ren and Penny. It was childish, but it deeply affected me. After I shared everything, Dean declared, "Okay then, we will block them." His matter-of-fact tone hit hard because I knew how much he cherished his family. I resisted, crying, saying I couldn't make him choose. He held me, wrapped me in a blanket, and told me they had made the choice, not me. We began discussing logistics. He wouldn't budge. I felt sad, usually so tough, but I hated taking away something so precious from him, regardless of whose fault it was. We cut them off, blocking almost everyone after sending a text explaining why. The next day was Ren's birthday party. I took Dean to a city festival to distract him, staying out until the early morning. Our neighbors later told us many people had knocked on our door, and a couple had even inquired about us. The police came by for a wellness check while I was making lunch, saying Dean's mother was concerned. Dean coldly stated his mother was dead, and that if his father's wife sent them, he wanted no contact. Penny arrived at our door by dinner. Dean, thinking it was a neighbor, opened it without looking. Ren was there, her eyes red from crying. She asked to come in. Dean refused. She started sobbing loudly. I came to see what the commotion was, and she fell into Dean, wailing, asking what she did wrong, proclaiming her love for him, and accusing him of being cold. Despite my anger, I saw Dean tearing up as he pushed her away, telling her to leave. Then she saw me, and her apologies turned into a desperate plea. "I'm so sorry if I ever made you feel like you're not family. You won. Please don't take my baby from us." She even offered to stop praying around me if that was the issue. When she finally stopped rambling, I told her it wasn't about religion. It was about her and others' treatment of me for almost 3 years. I was prepared to endure it, but her nastier gossip and, above all, the physical assault were unforgivable. The family letting that slide was unacceptable. I had an abusive ex and would never tolerate physical abuse again. That slap was the singular moment I realized she would never respect or care about me, and I could never respect her. I spoke firmly and directly, outlining her actions, the hurt she caused, and the consequences. She practically collapsed, interjecting with, "Okay, you hate me, I get it, and I'm sorry." Dean got her water, but she refused to drink. When asked if she heard herself falling, she became eerily calm, wiping her eyes, and with a strange frown, tears still falling, she said she came to apologize, but since we didn't want anything to do with her or the family, life wasn't worth living, knowing. Dean hated her. Dean shook his head, saying only, "Don't mistreat yourself like that. That's not fair." Then she walked out saying, "I won. He's mine. Please take care of him for her." The moment the door closed, Dean started crying. I tried to comfort him, but he pulled away. He said he wasn't angry with me, but it was a lot, and he felt like shit. He knew she was being manipulative, but almost wanted to accept her apology because it had been so hard, and he knew she'd spin this to make us seem callous, shaming him to his father. New beginnings and more skeletons. A week later, Dean was a bit more cheerful. He apologized for crying, which I immediately dismissed, telling him he never needed to apologize for his feelings, and that I was proud of his rationality in such an irrational moment. He began making new friends and pursuing hobbies in place of family events. Shooting hoops, joining a community garden, volunteering at an animal shelter. One Monday, he came home upset, needing space. I obliged and went out with a friend. When I returned, he asked me to sit down. He'd seen a Facebook post from Penny about Ren, asking for prayers. The post claimed Ren was severely depressed and suffering from the heartbreak of her life. A friend of Dean's commented, "If there is anything we can all do," and Penny replied, "Pray and nothing more." The next day, Dean's brother, Teddy, who remained unblocked because he had consistently supported us, called. Ren was in the hospital having tried to overdose on her medication and was asking for Dean. I told Dean he could go, offering to accompany him, but he refused. He'd been visibly down since. I felt terrible, knowing Ren was practically a mother to him. I questioned if my stupid joke had shattered his world, feeling immense guilt. While I usually dismiss such actions as manipulative, taking pills out of spite seemed like an extreme commitment. I wondered if he needed time, therapy, or a vacation. He's my person, and his pain was my pain. His family's harassment continued, calling, my job, reporting me for abusing him, even calling the police. It was a lot. Dean got a new job in another part of the state, a roller coaster for him, but we talked it out, and he accepted he no longer wanted to be near his family. When the Medusa of a woman, Ren, found out, Teddy told us she was throwing a fit. I knew she'd show up. I told Dean, I know so. And he came home the next day with more skeletons, propping them around the porch, yard, and garage. They had names: Boney Stark, Marilyn Monroe, Tibia Turner, each with a backstory. He'd lost his mind, he joked. Sure, enough, she appeared. Our ring cam alerted us. Dean went out to handle it while I watched from bed. He told her to leave, but she demanded to know why he was moving, blaming me, claiming I bullied him into the job. He refused and she slapped him twice, then started hitting him with her fists, cursing. He backed away and pushed her, causing her to fall. She then screamed that he had hit her, calling him a monster, and cried for help, waking the neighborhood. Dean, trying to stay calm, opened the door and told me to call the police. I watched her smugly threaten to say we both attacked her, showing him her arm, claiming injuries. She said no one would believe him. He stared at her, then went inside. She went berserk, throwing Boney Stark into the rose bushes, then calmly sat on our porch until the police arrived. She put on the waterworks the moment the patrol car pulled in, even lying down on the stairs. The police quickly sorted it out. Despite her Oscar-worthy performance, we had footage. It was my turn to be smug. I cast the video onto our large TV for all to see. She cursed at me, calling me a bitch, a loser, a harpy, who charmed her baby, and lunged. Dean stepped in the way, telling her to get the fuck out of our house, calling her disgusting and manipulative. Then, he delivered the final blow. I'm not your baby. It was as if she finally understood. This time her sobs were genuine. The police took her outside. We had her legally removed and requested a restraining order, which we now have temporarily, expiring after our move. A new chapter, new traditions. Dean was sad for a few days, but now he's excited about our new city, with its live music and events. I know the grief will catch up to him eventually, but it's good to see him smile. The rest of the family continued to harass us, but Dean would forward the footage and warn them to control Ren, or he'd go full no contact. Sometimes it made him cry, other times just angry. I offered to take over some of the burden, but he refused, wanting us to just ride this out, pack up, and get settled. And yes, the skeletons are coming with us. Turns out, threatening no contact and following through changes minds. Ren couldn't contact us due to the restraining order, so she leaned on other family members. No one really buckled under the pressure apart from a few slip-ups that we quickly blocked. Dean has been very protective. We've moved, and yes, we brought the skeletons and acquired more. Things were fine until Penny contacted me directly, asking me not to tell Dean yet, but she was worried things had gone on too long. Ren had believed herself pregnant in July but wasn't. Since then, she'd been insisting she was having a baby with Penny's husband and some other family members. Dean and I were unaware of this. According to Penny, Ren accidentally called Dean her son in front of the extended family after we moved, putting the idea in her head that it might be possible. I didn't know what to do. It sounded like a soap opera, and Dean was finally in a good place, maintaining no contact. We were closer to my chosen family and had a full social calendar. A friend advised me to tell Dean so he wasn't blindsided, and I would normally agree, but I hated that Ren continued to occupy so much of our minds. I wanted to prevent her from ruining what we had. I decided to take the weekend to figure out what to do. In the meantime, I got Dean a new skeleton named Manfred from his favorite video game to keep things light. Dean and I moved. I started a new job, and he thrived in his. It had been quiet. I told Dean about Ren's weird slip-up, calling him her son. He didn't react at first. About a month later, while packing files for our move, he went through them and asked if I thought it was possible. I said I didn't really know. We concluded it could be true or not, but either way, the woman he called his mother remained just that, and he'd keep her memory. Whatever his sister's biological connection, it didn't matter. He'd cut off most of his family, and we started building a life in our new city. Teddy visits sometimes, but it's mostly just Dean and me. We recently got engaged after adopting a dog, and Dean joked that since we had a child, I should make an honest man out of him. Life is full. After having fun with skeletons at our new place, dressing them for every odd holiday, adding name tags and costumes, it became a tradition. Last month, Teddy told us Dean's sister punched their stepmother in the face. We don't know why, but charges are being pressed. It seems we got away at the right time. Unexpected mediation and a brighter future. A week ago, Dean and I were preparing for our annual spring bonanza, our term for dressing all our skeletons in sun hats and fake mustaches, propping them on the porch with lemonade pictures for neighborhood kids. Yes, our HOA president hates us and writes increasingly aggressive letters. This time, however, we got a formal letter. Ren was contesting the restraining order and requesting mediation. Close to dreading it, I contacted our new delightful neighbor, Eloise, a 70-year-old retired lawyer who bakes rotating pies and wears purple Crocs to court. She advised me to go to mediation, but with receipts and witnesses. Eloise volunteered to observe as my unjustifiably terrifying auntie. I accepted. Dean, meanwhile, was scrolling Pet Finder for more family members who don't yell. The mediation day arrived. Rules were established. Neutral party, safe space, only facts. Penny showed up on Ren's arm, a red flag since they'd been giving each other the silent treatment since the punch. Turns out, family litigation brings out the best in people. Ren looked deflated, not angry, just small. She started by apologizing for blowing up our lives, the insults, Facebook posts, and public displays. She said since the fallout, she'd been in inpatient therapy, unlearning a lifetime of unconditional rightness. Eloise gave me an interesting continue eyebrow raise. Penny offered a brittle apology for any confusion she'd caused in my work and personal life, but clarified she wasn't sorry about trying to return Dean to Jesus. She held her hands in prayer, and I swear Eloise groaned with every joint in her body. Then Ren revealed the true reason for mediation. Her psych team suggested that for her closure, she needed to see if there was a path back to being siblings with Dean. I'm not saying you have to forgive me, but if you could tell me how to start, I'll do it. It was awkward, vulnerable, and so different from every previous meltdown that I felt like we were in a parallel universe. Dean, to his credit, didn't rage or freeze. He listened, calmly asking if this was truly about closure or another performance. Ren quietly said if it was closure he needed, she could accept that. Dean said he could forgive but couldn't unsee what happened. The best future was one with boundaries and maybe infrequent surface-level contact. She accepted. We agreed on a birthday card and a hello at major holidays, the skeleton crew, and a peaceful haunt. But it didn't end there. The very next morning, I was tagged in a local community Facebook post. Why does the universe love irony? Colorful new residents continue family tradition. The photo showed Dean, me, Teddy, our dog, and every skeleton in hats, sunglasses, sundresses, and grass skirts lined up for the bonanza, with small kids laughing beside them. The post had hundreds of likes. Someone asked Dean if he'd rent out the skeletons for a kid's birthday party. He put on his best deadpan dad voice and said, "Only if you can handle the grave responsibility." That was the moment we realized that without Ren's chaos, we'd become lighter, weirder, and more ourselves. Teddy helped us hang fairy lights on the porch. Eloise dropped off a fresh pie labeled undead but well-fed. Dean bought a banjo, don't ask, and I started a group text with the neighbors called Shady Acre Skeleton Crew. The dogs from up the street, our skeleton wranglers, now get special baked treats on weekends. I never thought life would reach a point where peace meant accepting weird, colorful routines, forgiving but not forgetting, and learning to let go when people start to heal without inviting the whole circus back in. For now, our bones are all in the right closet. Ren is working on herself. Dean is healing, finding joy, and about to set up a miniature skeleton for our dog with matching neon hair. If there's a lesson, sometimes the family you build, dog, boyfriend, 7 skeletons, and a neighbor or two, is the best haunt you'll ever have. And maybe, just maybe, being the shameless hussy means you get to write the future in hot pink glitter pens, one ridiculous tradition at a time. An unexpected evolution. If you had told me 4 years ago that I'd be hosting a neighborhood skeletons and scone social featuring a dog in a glow-in-the-dark ribcage vest and an actual local news van, I would have thought you were high. Yet, here we are, and somehow it feels exactly right. Life in our new, normal neighborhood absolutely blossomed after the viral Bonanza post. A community organizer asked if Boney, Stark, and Manford could lead the city's quirky summer parade float. I agreed, but only if they wore sunglasses and sashes. The deal was sealed. Teddy began making skeleton-sized Miss Congeniality pageant sashes. And I hot-glued hats at midnight while Dean rehearsed banjo with the local jug band, Jamboree. He's inexplicably quite decent now, and I'm both proud and slightly alarmed. Amidst this, Dean received a handwritten letter. A real one, postmarked, which stopped us cold. It was from Wren. My stomach did a somersault the second I saw her handwriting. Dean opened it with me beside him. Inside was a Polaroid of a family. Picnic from over a decade ago with his late mother beaming and a younger Wren scowling in the background, arms folded. The note on the back was just 4 lines. You have a good home full of love. That's all Mom ever wanted for you. Thank you for teaching me that while I was trying to ruin it. That was it. Every time I expect another episode of Wren's World, of chaos, humanity emerges instead. Dean didn't cry this time. He looked thoughtful, then chuckled, placing the photo on our kitchen corkboard next to our dog's adoption certificate. Feels kind of right, he said. We texted Teddy to check in, and sure enough, the whole family is deep into individual counseling. Wren moved in with a cousin 2 counties over, is no longer on Facebook, and according to Teddy, spent her last family dinner acknowledging that sometimes she'd been the villain and was trying to break that cycle. Penny, ever dramatic, threatened to move to a mountain retreat to pray for everyone, but so far just switched churches. Meanwhile, our little crew has become an institution. Eloise, bless her crock-wearing soul, organized a Skeletons for Safety sidewalk patrol. Okay, so it's mostly 6 grandmas gossiping over scones, but property crime is down. Our address is now locally known as That House, which is an upgrade from classless Hussey's Lair, if you ask me. More recently, the real unexpected twist. A flurry of invitations started arriving in our inbox, asking if we'd share our chosen family's journey at a local festival about acceptance, joy, and rebuilding. It turns out that Facebook post had a ripple effect. Families who saw themselves in our story, in-laws, step-families, queer families, started chatting with us online or waving from across the street. We decided to agree on our terms. In true form, Dean performed a short set with his banjo. Yes, he played spooky scary skeletons while our dog sang. Teddy told a bad dad joke, and I gave a short talk about boundaries, forgiveness, and refusing to edit yourself down to fit into someone else's idea of family. I may or may not have worn my shameless hussy pin from Etsy. The best part was how many oddballs came and said, "Thanks for showing you can throw a boundary without throwing a bone." The only even faintly sour note. The very next day, Dean got a generic text from an unblocked number. He scrolled, then handed it to me. "Your family seems so happy. Maybe I can learn something from you." Just signed, Penny. No threats, no Jesus. Singing, not even a guilt trip about welcoming her back for our wedding. Just recognition. It's such a modest, almost evolutionary step forward that we didn't even reply, not yet anyway. So, will the Skeletons get their own Instagram? They now have matching hoodies. Will Penny ever go a whole year without trying to save someone? Will Dean's banjo band headline our neighborhood block party next spring? I don't know. And honestly, I'm done waiting for disaster to drop. Let the drama come. We've got lawn chairs, allies, and enough plastic bones to outfit a conga line. Mostly, I'm just grateful for my person, for Teddy's unconditional dad jokes, for Eloise's unflinching backup, for forgiveness that doesn't erase the past but honors growth, and for the weird, beautiful, absurd little haunt we call home. Maybe there'll always be a little residual clamor on the edge of our joy. But if it means all our skeletons come out to play, I'll dress them in neon and glitter and own every last inch of our edge. And if this is as boring as life ever gets, well, bring on the next bonanza. The family I picked and the bones I picked up along the way are magic enough for me.